One of the more intriguing players in this year's draft class is Matthew Golden. This guy was a huge wide receiver coming out of high school, but chose a very unorthodox route. He was a big-time recruit who chose to go to a Group of 5 program instead of a Power 4 school, especially when he had tons of big offers. Some thought this could end up being costly for him, but instead, he had 2 productive years there, became one of the top transfer wide receivers in 2024, and ended up on a national championship contending team. Not only did he become the #1 target on this team, but he had one of the most iconic plays in recent memory for the Texas Longhorns and is now getting considerable first-round hype. He's seen as one of the more safe options in this year's draft class, and today I'm going to talk about Matthew Golden. We're going to go through his journey and story, talk about his college career, and how he ultimately ended up at this point, and my future thoughts on him in the NFL. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Matthew Golden. Okay, so I'm going to try to do 100 videos on NFL draft prospects or rookies over the coming months between now and the end of July, so be sure to check out that playlist. I'll leave a link down below, and let me know what player I should include and do one on next. In order to understand how Golden got to this point, we first need to go back in time. After being named the head coach of Klein Cain High School, him and the coaching staff were wondering what kind of players would have an impact on their program and how the heck they were going to build it from nothing. Well, their coach said, quote, "We have some guys in middle school who are going to be special." The coach responded with, "Middle school? Come on, man." Well, it turns out he was right. He continued to mention the name Matthew Golden over and over, and just how unguardable this guy was. He had an insane work ethic and was a leader and had great physical skills. Matthew Golden loved football from a young age and obviously grew up in the fertile football grounds of Texas. As he got into high school, he was a star early on and said, quote, "I learned what it was like to be a leader when I was a freshman as I watched the seniors. Leadership is pretty big here at Cain." Pretty quickly, Matthew Golden would explode, and alongside future college quarterback Carson Roper and future Texas running back Jaden Blue, the Klein Cain program was in good hands, despite it being pretty much brand new. Golden would end up setting the school record in his very first varsity game, as he caught 4 touchdowns. He pretty much dominated all the time, and his coach said, quote, "He was like having a grown man out there at times." The thing about Matthew is that anytime he touches the ball, something is going to happen. It was hard to stay a coach sometimes, because you're kind of like, I have to sit back and enjoy this. Matthew was the kind of player who always rose to the occasion, and he always naturally progressed to the next step. He eventually became a 4-star recruit and was wanted by schools all over the country, gaining nearly 20 quick offers. Eventually he decided to commit to TCU, and after having 1,300 all-purpose yards, he knew TCU was the place for him the moment he walked into the stadium. He said, quote, "It felt like home when I was on my official visit, and I looked at the offense and I felt like it fit my playing style." Golden would study players such as Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and Devontae Adams, and he would eventually try to model his game after them. By the time he was a junior, he was a household name in the state of Texas and wanted an even bigger senior year. He said he was going for 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns, and people would see all the work that he had put in. While Golden was balling out on the field, everything was also looking good for TCU, but then Gary Patterson was fired. He would decide to open things back up and find a new school, and he had 20 offers before, so it wasn't going to be too challenging to find a good fit for him. Golden had an incredible year, as he caught 63 passes for 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. He also picked up a few more big-time offers, such as Texas and the notable Jackson State. But as we all know, he decided to sign with Houston. He became one of the highest players to ever sign at the University of Houston, and this was a huge get for Dana Holgorsen. Wait, what? Yeah. He decided to sign with an American school out of high school instead of a traditional power, and he was just a different guy, just like his impact on his young high school. Take the last game of his high school career. He ended up losing 56-53 to Spring High School, and in that game, he almost willed them to a win. He caught 2 touchdown passes, ran for another, and even completed a pass on a trick play. Not only was he great as a receiver, but he also was super quick. He ran the 100-meter dash in 10.93 seconds and had a 21-foot 9-inch long jump. This made him a special athlete for Houston, and when you combine that with extreme talent and an extreme work ethic, Matthew Golden was quickly going to ascend to the top of college football, and it wasn't going to be a surprise to anybody. He played a big part in turning a high school program that didn't exist in 2017 into a regular playoff team. He also rewrote the record book. Matthew would finish his career with 167 catches for 3,342 yards and 32 touchdowns. He also had 4 more scores on the ground. He had NFL potential down the road, and many were pumped to see what he could do right away. According to 24/7 Sports, Golden was a 4-star recruit, the number 25 receiver, and the 150th best player in the class of 2022. So, how would he end up doing at Houston? Well, just like everybody thought, Golden got a lot of praise to begin the season. Dana Holgorsen is not the kind of coach to give out early praise, so when he was gushing over how good Matthew Golden can be as a freshman, it was significant. He said, quote, He's a different special kind of young man. He's very mature, very hardworking, and he doesn't say anything and he can go get it. Pretty much right away, Golden was going to be a starting receiver there, and at 19 years old, he was going to be paired alongside Tank Dell. Luckily, he wouldn't be asked to do too much, as obviously they had Tank Dell at receiver, and they also had a superstar quarterback in Clayton Tune. As a freshman in 2022, Golden would catch 38 passes for 584 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's one of the best freshman receivers in all of college football, and with Dell heading off to the NFL, it looked like the sky was going to be the limit for him in 2023. Except, honestly, that got to his head a little bit. 2023 didn't begin as planned, as he dropped 6 of his 13 catches through his first 3 games. That was completely jarring. How did he take such a big step back? Well, the answer was simple. Honestly, he had too high of expectations, and he just had to settle down. After that Week 3 game against TCU, he didn't drop another pass the rest of the season. While Houston would struggle in their first year in the Big 12, Golden would end up finishing strong. He finished with 38 catches for 404 yards and 6 touchdowns. Obviously, those numbers were a little bit down from the year prior, but you have to remember they had a new quarterback, and the competition was going to be a little bit better now. He also only got to play in 9 games due to injury. Houston ended up finishing with a 4-8 record, and they went 2-7 in the Big 12. This led to the firing of head coach Dana Holgorsen, and it led to Matthew Golden wanting to examine new options. In total in his career at Houston, he had 76 catches for 988 yards and 13 touchdowns. He also returned 14 kickoffs for 400 yards and 2 more touchdowns there. Where was he going to go? Well, he looked to the flagship school. The Texas Longhorns had been pursuing both Antwane Wells and Deion Burks, but with Burks wanting to go to Oklahoma and Wells wanting to go to Ole Miss, their first commitment in the receiver department would end up coming from Golden. This was a huge get for him, as according to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star transfer, the number 9 receiver, and the 48th best player available in the portal. He was definitely not new to the Longhorn staff, as when Houston played them last year, he had a huge game. Golden helped bring them back from a 21-0 deficit, and he finished with 7 catches for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately for Texas, they lose a lot of talent, as I said earlier in the video, they lose their star tight end Jatavian Sanders, and their 2 big receivers A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. Golden will be expected to be the guy right away, but there are still plenty of other talented guys in the receiver room, including Jonte Cook, DeAndre Moore, and Ryan Niblett. That's not even talking about some of their freshmen like Ryan Wingo, but there was a lot of losses for Texas. They lost their top 2 true receivers in Worthy and Mitchell, and both Isaiah Nayor and Casey Kane also entered the portal. The other huge addition for Texas would be Isaiah Bond from Alabama, but him and Golden were supposed to be the top 2 guys overall, and that's exactly how it would play out in 2024. He would end up going under the radar nationally, but Golden ended up having a tremendous first 2 games. He had 2 touchdowns in their Week 1 victory against Colorado State, and then on the road against number 10 Michigan, in what we thought was a humongous win, Golden caught 6 passes for 41 yards and a touchdown. Great start for him. He would then help them beat UTSA and Louisiana Monroe before a 5-catch outing against Mississippi State. He would continue on in a solid role for them, as he then caught a pass against number 18 Oklahoma, 3 passes in a loss to Georgia, and then 2 passes and a touchdown in a win over number 25 Vanderbilt. He would then have a tremendous finish to the season, becoming one of the better receivers in college football. He had 2 touchdowns in a home victory over Florida, went on the road and had 2 touchdowns against Arkansas, and then had 7 catches against Kentucky at home. In the highly anticipated renewal of the rivalry against A&M in Texas, he ended up having 73 receiving yards in their victory against the Aggies. But he saved his best football for last, as his 2 best performances in a Texas uniform came on some of the biggest stages. In the SEC Championship against number 5 Georgia, Golden had the best game of his career, catching 8 passes for 162 yards and a slim loss to the number 5 Dogs. Luckily, they would still make the college football playoff, and he'd have 2 big catches in their win over number 12 Clemson in the first round. As they would then make it to the final couple rounds, he had a huge game against Arizona State. Faced with a long 4th down in overtime, Quinn Ewers threw a ball towards the back of the end zone, and apparently Matthew Golden didn't see it. He said, quote, "When I looked, I've got a visor, and the light was right in my eye. When I looked, I saw it at the last minute, and nobody knows that." That 4th and 13 play ended up resulting in a huge touchdown, and they would eventually win against the Arizona State Sun Devils 39-31. He ended up having 7 catches for 149 yards in that crucial score, and he lived to play another game. In the semifinal against number 8 Ohio State, Golden was somewhat limited, as he only had 2 catches for 51 yards, and that game was a classic, but they would ultimately lose. Golden's season was now over, but he became the top receiver on the team. In total, he had 58 catches for 987 yards and 9 total touchdowns. He had been consistent all season long and played some of his best football in the winter months. That can usually help in terms of the NFL draft, so Golden was now starting to fly up draft boards. He had been productive for 3 years of college football, had good speed, good statistics, and many NFL scouts thought he could transition to the next level. Scouts believe that he is a good route runner, has good speed and acceleration, has both great concentration and body control, plus wonderful shiftness. The biggest knock on his game are going to be his height and frame, as that could negatively impact him in the league, and because of that, he's also brought down by defenders and has a little bit of a lower catch radius. Overall though, he's still one of the most well-rounded prospects in this year's draft class, and he does all the little things right, has produced, and is good enough, in my opinion, to be a solid NFL receiver. I don't know if he'll ever emerge as a primary target in the league, but he's definitely good enough to be a good wide receiver 2 or 3 for any NFL team. So yeah, today we talked about Matthew Golden. He was sort of a prodigy in the sense that he was a big-time recruit who chose a group of 5 school, but it ultimately paid off for him, and it seemingly helped him. He's now probably going to be a first-round pick, and I can't wait to see what he does in the next couple of years. But what do you guys think? If you're a Houston, a Texas, or an NFL fan, what do you think of Matthew Golden? Where do you think he'll get drafted? And what player should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.